Hey, let's explore the concept of React state. The state is an updatable structure that contains the data for a component. The neat part is that a component state can change throughout the lifetime of that component in the web app. For example, a component may want to track how many times a user has clicked on it. So it can have a key like clicked count in its state object. And every time the user clicks on the component, it will increment that clicked count variable in the state by 1. Let's apply this concept of state in our own app component. But first, let's remove all that example code that we used to explore classes from the last video, if you still have it. So let's get rid of this regular class and component class stuff. You can also leave it commented out if you like. All right, so I'll go ahead and delete that. And in the main index.js file, we don't need the line and the animal class anymore. So goodbye to those two classes. All right. So now the index.js file is back to its short amount of lines. All right, back in the app.js file, let's now use the concept of state to power a new toggleable piece of the introduction. We're going to have a new bio section to provide more details about you in case someone wants to learn more. Let's start by actually adding this section through its JSX. In this component, we're going to have a new div within the render method after the last paragraph. And this div is going to have even more paragraph elements within it. So I'm going to provide more information and adjust your text to say things relevant to you. So for me, I'll write I live in San Francisco and say that I code pretty much every day. I'll put something like my favorite language is JavaScript. So you can put something similar, something that will make someone know that you're into tech and it's one of your passion. I'll put, and I think React.js is awesome. And then for the last paragraph element, I'll put something a little more lighthearted. I'll say, besides coding, I also love music and ramen, which is a true statement. Okay, so go ahead and save that. You should have the application running on the command line. If you don't already, then fire npm run start. Then visit the application on the browser at localhost 3000. And if you refresh, you're going to find that, well, you have the new text right there within the actual application. Cool, so there's the new section. Now, it's not a huge amount of information, but let's take advantage of state to actually make this new section toggleable. At first, the section is going to be hidden, but then a visitor will have a button that they can click to show more and see the information. After expanding the section, they're going to have a second button to click that can show less information and collapse that expanded section. All right, this starts by updating the component to have state. First, we're going to add a constructor to the app component. So within the app component, add the constructor method. Make sure I spell it correctly. So there is the constructor. You'll recall from our exploration of classes that the constructor is a key method that gets fired when an instance of the class is created. Now, in this case, we're going to use the constructor to attach a state object to the component. Using the this object, we can say that the state object for this component is an empty object. Now, if you save here and then check the React app, you might get a little spooked because you're going to see an error in the React application. It's going to say cannot set property state of undefined. Looks like the this object isn't working for the React component. After all, it's saying that this is undefined and undefined.state is not valid JavaScript. Well, not to worry. There's actually something crucial missing in the constructor, and it has to do with the way class inheritance works. Recall from our code that explored classes that a subclass of a base class has to call the super property in order to invoke the parent class's constructor method. Well, in this case, we have to do that. We need to call super to invoke the constructor of the parent component class. And even though in this case, there's no parameters in the parent constructor, there are still relevant lines of code to run in the parent component class constructor method in order to set up the React component correctly. And the evidence is there. By calling super, the React app is displaying correctly again because the this object is defined. Okay, let's add the first piece to the state object, and that will be a key called display bio. Make sure it's camel case so that way the B is capitalized. Display bio is going to be a value which controls whether or not we should show this new section within the React application. By default, let's make display bio false. Then in the render method, the component can decide whether or not it should display the bio field based on the value of this.state.displayBio. To do this, let's make a bio variable at the top of the render method. But instead of a constant, let's use a let variable so that way the bio can be reassigned later. So have let bio. And at first, the bio variable will be set to the entire bio div. So go ahead and grab that entire piece of JSX with a div. So we're going to make bio equal that block of JSX. Now, in order to properly wrap these multiple lines within one variable, we need to surround this with a pair of parentheses. So make sure there is a pair of parentheses around the entire block of JSX. And now bio is equal to that entire div with all of its inner content. Nice. Now we can still render the bio within the render method itself by using a pair of curly braces within the JSX. And this allows you to render variables within the actual JSX and display them. So if you have the bio variable and then you still put bio within a pair of curly braces in the return, you're going to find that the application still displays the bio text. Nice. But the idea is that we don't want to display the bio if display bio is false in the actual state. So let's add a check. If this.state.displayBio is equal to false, but we can actually write this equivalent expression by using if bang operator this.state.displayBio. So this is equivalent to checking if this.displayBio is equal to false. Well, in this case, let's make bio null. And when React sees a null value within the JSX, it decides to skip over that and it won't render anything. And if you save that, you're going to find in the application, well, indeed, the section becomes null and disappears from the application. Cool. So now we have some state controlling a part of the component. Before we move on though, we can make our code cleaner. First up, we can remove this if condition and take advantage of a ternary expression. So essentially a ternary expression is a one-line if statement that will check a Boolean value and set a variable to one of two values. All right, let's start writing the ternary expression. First, we'll directly check this.displayBio. We'll have a question mark which starts the ternary expression. And then the first value is going to be the true case. If this.displayBio is true, well, we want bio to become this entire block of JSX. Otherwise, we go to a different value with a colon. And in this case, after the colon, if this.displayBio is false, we're going to make bio null. This now means we no longer need this if condition. And then we can turn bio into a constant since it's never assigned, or rather reassigned. All right, if you save, you'll find that the application still displays nothing for the actual bio, which is correct because this.displayBio is false, and we're going to the false condition of the ternary expression, which is null. To check that this worked though, we can temporarily change displayBio to true in the state, and if you save that, you'll find that the bio reappears within the actual application. All right, awesome. Another thing is that we don't even need the constant of bio if we're only using it once. We can take this whole expression and render it inline within the JSX within that pair of curly braces. So we can take out const bio at all, then have this.displayBio, and then render the JSX or null depending on the displayBio value. If you save this, you'll find that the bio is appearing, and if you switch it back to false, indeed it goes away. Perfect. That's looking pretty good. Now let's move on to the next part. We're going to give the user the control to switch the displayBio Boolean in the state. That way they can determine whether or not the bio should be expanded or collapsed in the application. All right, let's move on. If you enjoy this content, head to davidtkatz.com. There, you'll find links to full courses, as well as to reach out and connect with me. For React and Redux in particular, you'll want to check out udemy.com/React Redux Bootcamp. This is a course I made to help you learn React and Redux the right way, and to turn you into React and Redux developer. Okay, see you in the next one.